Hey there, IT 145 students. So let's take a look at the Module 6 assignment that we have to work with. So we're going to scroll down here, and the objective of the code is to take some inputs. These are the dimensions of a wall that needs to be painted. And we want to calculate the area of the wall and then determine how much paint is needed. And you can see that we're going to display the output just like you see here. Now, the assignment here starts out with they give us the project. So we'll go ahead and just download that. Go to our downloads folder, and then you can unzip it. You don't necessarily have to do that, but that's fine. And inside there's just one file called paint1. So I'm just going to go ahead and just drag it right over to a Eclipse project. Great. And we'll go ahead and open that up. So what the objective here is, we need to fix syntax errors, fix bugs, and get this to work properly. So we'll come in here. And again, the advantage of using an IDE is I can instantly see, oh, look, hey, there's a problem right there. There's a variable called gallons paint needed that isn't declared anywhere above. So, oh, look, there's a variable called gallons paint needed with proper camel casing convention. So that obviously fixes that problem right there. So then we need to run this, and we'll just kind of run it out of the box. So right click, run as Java application. And I'll put in numbers like 7 and 8 because I know that multiplies to be 56. That's the area of the wall. And so, oh, look, we have a bug there. We don't have any paint needed. So our task is to figure out what's going on. So one thing I recommend is to double click and put breakpoints in. So let's do this. Let's put a breakpoint right here. I'm going to wait until after I get my input in so I can kind of see what we have here. So let's go ahead and instead of running, let's debug it. So again, I'm going to put in 7 for the height. I'm going to put 8 for the width. And so now I can look to see what my variables contain. So the height is 8. Yeah, I typed in, oh wait, I typed in a height of 7. Uh-oh, that's not 7. And my width is supposed to be 8, and that's nothing. Uh-oh, in fact, that's a 0. Let's step over. So the area is 0, and again, I can do some hovering here. It took an 8 times a 0, and that is always, 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 always going to be 0. So we know for sure that the height is not correct and the width values are not correct, and so your task is to come up here and figure out why the values are not correct. Okay, so we can use the debugger to see some of those things. Next thing, we need to add a loop to validate the user input. So we need to validate the user input here. In fact, let's do this. Use try catch. Oh, they've already got it right there for us. Implement a do while loop. So we're going to do a do. Move this in here. And we need a condition. I'm going to use a variable. I don't want to use the wall height because that's a double. So let's do Boolean valid input. We'll set it to false while not valid input. Okay, great. So we'll prompt them for the wall height. We get it. And eventually, when it's valid, we have to set valid input to true. So that should be the last line of this block right here. Now, we also need to handle exceptions. So the exception that could happen, so let's just go ahead and run this. Run. So if I type in a string, this is going to throw an exception. There it is. We threw an exception right there. So we could wrap this in a try catch block. Invalid input. Try again. So cross your fingers. We're going to run this. So invalid input and, oh, sorry. We need to move this into here. If I get valid input, then I set my Boolean to true. And now let's try running it again. And we have an infinite loop here. Stop. Hang tight, I'll be right back. Okay, so had to go figure out, so we have an infinite loop here going on. So what's happening is we typed in a non-double value, so we typed in a string, which threw the exception, and so then we're getting the invalid input. And so it's coming back in here, it's entering the prompt. Problem that we have is our scanner object, the buffer hasn't been cleared. So what we need to do is inside this catch block, we need to consume the characters that are in the buffer. So cross your fingers. Now when we run this, so I'm going to type in a string, enter. Okay, good. So invalid input, try again. So I was told that to enter the wall height again. Again, if I type in a non-value, I get the error message. And if I finally type in a string, then I continue out and I'm then asked for the wall width. So fantastic, we got that all fixed. So here is the do while loop that you can use for this. So this will validate our inputs for this purposes. And let's double check. So the only input validation they're requiring, let's see here. Do they mention anything about non-negative numbers? We probably should, but doesn't look like they're asking for anything that is non-negative. We could do this, um, you know, we could do something like if wall height is greater than 0. Let's do this less than 0, then input wall height needs to be greater than 0. And then we need an else. We've got valid input and we're going to set our variable to true there. So let's see how that works. Let's see if that takes care of negative numbers. So stop, rerun. So if I type in string, if I type in a negative number, hey, all right, wall height needs to be greater than 0. And so again, we're continually being prompt. So if I finally type in a good number, it moves on. Okay, so that should get you going on the assignment for this module. As always, send a message if you have any questions.